Come on. Live.
Welcome back, everybody. So today we are going to be talking about how much you should take as an owner for your pay. A lot of owners don't take pay. They just keep what they make behind the chair, or sometimes they don't even keep that. They put that back in the salon again and don't take a paycheck for months. So today I want to break down some misconceptions people have about paying yourself as an owner. Should you pay yourself? How do you pay yourself commission? Things that I did wrong in the past and things that I probably would have changed and things that I'm doing now in my salon. So the reason why I make these videos is because it was really hard in the beginning of owning a salon, especially while you're working behind the chair. And I made a lot of mistakes that caused a lot of financial issues in my life. So hopefully you don't have to make them and you could listen in and you can learn and then you can ask questions. So James, today's title is what again?
Today's title is how much should a salon owner actually pay themselves?
Wow. That is quite the question that I'm sure a lot of people are perplexed about. So that has to do with your freedom number. And that has to do with what you're comfortable taking out of the salon. What can the salon actually pay you? If you want to make 500 grand a year, but the salon can only afford to pay you 50 grand a year, well, then you're in a little dilemma, aren't you? And you got to make some changes in the way you operate your business and the type of salon that you run and the type of model that you have. So first, I want to break down salon models, business models. And there's really going to be like three core ones. You have the rental model, where you're more of a landlord, you're renting chairs. Commission model, where you are splitting the revenue that comes in and being generated by the stylist, and you pay them a 40% commission, 50% commission, whatever that structure is in your salon. Then you have the hourly salary, the employee structure, where you're paying them a set amount of money per hour or a set salary per week. And that's how you pay your team. The rest comes into you. That one's a little more difficult, especially if you're a new salon owner, because you don't know how to market properly. You don't know how to feed these people, how to bring them in clientele. And you might think that based on your numbers, you're estimated to make $200 an hour in that chair, but in reality, you're probably making like $18 an hour out of that chair because you don't know how to set your pricing right. And then you wind up in a hole. I feel the best way to run a salon is by having a commission structure or some kind of a revenue share split. And the way you could do that is you have to truly understand your pricing. And you got to fully understand that when you price out your services, that you're conscious of how much your rent is, how much your color costs, how much like your cam charges are, and all of that needs to be figured out to figure out how much it costs per minute for your chair to operate in the hours that you're open. Once you got that figured out, then you have to figure out like what you're paying your team. What's that commission structure look like? And then what do you want to make as an owner on the other end of that? So there's a pricing calculator on nickmarabella.com. Check it out. Then there's also a commission calculator. And both those calculators should help you kind of figure out how you should pay your team and make it a little easier for you. But for you as an owner, if you're not working behind the chair, then what's your number you want to make? Is it 100 grand a year, 200 grand a year, 500 grand a year? First, establish what that number is, what your goal is. And then you have something to work towards. Because if you have a number, like I said, your goal is 500 grand a year and you think that you want to own a rental salon because it's easier, I'm going to almost guarantee that you're not going to get there with one salon. Maybe you'll get there with like 50 salons, but it's not likely. So if that's your goal to make $500,000 a year, then we have to step into more of a commission-based model. This way you can grow your team. And as you grow your team and empower them, you're able to pull some of the profits out of your end of the commission and then use them for a salary for yourself to grow the salon, keep it running, keep it operating. Honestly, as an owner, what I used to do was I just kept what I made behind the chair and like the salon would pay the bills. And the problem with that was the harder I worked, obviously the salon didn't really reap any of the benefits, and the better the salon did or worse salon did, it really wouldn't affect me unless it did really bad and I had to put money into the salon. It's cool, but you never leave the mindset of a stylist when you operate that way. It's like I was so focused on me making money behind the chair, and I made money. Like there was months I was making like 30 grand a month, but the salon was just like an afterthought. When you have to focus on the salon and rely on the salon, excuse me, to give you a salary it changes your whole perspective on everything. It changes the whole way you operate. It changes your mindset. And now you start thinking like an owner, like an entrepreneur. So if you are working behind the chair, what I would suggest that you do, now that I'm looking back, maybe not in the beginning, right? Maybe like after you get established a little bit, first couple months to a year, I would treat yourself like an employee behind the chair. And then for the extra work that you're doing, I would pay yourself as a manager or as an owner. Pay yourself for the jobs that you're doing. And the way you want to do this is you want to create a position agreement. I'm sorry, let me back up. First, you want to create an organizational chart. You want to create an org chart so you know exactly what hat you're wearing, when, what you're doing in that role, and then when you finally have enough money coming into the business, how you can delegate that role. So in an org chart, you have the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Financial Officer, all these different roles and positions. And you're probably doing all of them, and you're probably not getting paid for any of them. What you want to do is create those different roles in your salon. Then what you want to do is create a position agreement for each one of them. Tie that position agreement and that particular role to a number. So when you are the chief marketing officer, we need to bring in 50 new clients a month. When you're the chief financial officer, we need to be staying at or above a 20% profit margin in the salon. When you're the CEO, all of this shit has to run efficiently. And sometimes you're not the best person for the CEO of your own salon. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But at least if you have the org chart organized, what is this position? How many hours a week does it take you to do that? How much time does it take you to efficiently and effectively serve that role? And what do you want to get paid for that? Is that like, let's call it $50 an hour, and you're spending 10 hours a week on that role? That's $500. Then you have the next one. Call it the same number. That's $1,000 a week now for those 3 roles. Now throw in the chief marketing officer. So you're doing the finances, you're the chief executive officer, and now you're doing the finances and then the market. So that's $1,500 a week. Now let's say you are the operations person too. You're the COO. Another $500. So you're sitting like $2,500 a week. So if you to get $2,500 a week, that's a decent salary for yourself. In addition to you doing hair a couple days a week, that's a pretty good starting point. Don't forget, that's 5 hours, that's 10 hours, that's 15 hours, that's 20 hours. Okay. That's 25 hours a week dedicated towards growing your salon. If you're paying yourself $500 a clip for each one of these positions. If you bring on a manager to offload some of this, and let's say they're only doing that X amount of hours per week, $500 is pretty good for a part-time role, someone virtually maybe handling your finances. So for a virtual CFO, if you have a bigger location, you could probably get somebody like I was working with Blue Collar Back Office a while ago, and I'm not going to say what their number was. I don't know if that's proprietary, like between me and them, but like that $500 a week easily covers them and what they need to do for you to handle your bookkeeping, your finances, and help you really create a good dashboard for yourself to figure out where your money's going and how you should really structure your income coming in and take care of your expenses. So as an owner of a salon, I mean, there's a lot of shit you're going to be doing. You need to get paid for it. For the simple reason, when you want to sell your business, if you don't take a paycheck out from an investor standpoint, why would I invest in your salon? It's a chaotic train wreck. Like, I want to invest into a salon or buy a salon that's running smooth, that doesn't need me to be there, because that's an investment. If I got to buy your salon to buy the headaches, or you want to pass it on to your kids, you're going to pass the headache on to them. So the quicker you can wrap your head around actually getting paid to be an owner, separate from what you do behind the chair, the quicker you're going to make the necessary changes in your business from an operational standpoint, that would make it a joy to operate and own. This is why I talk about mindset so much. You're no longer a hairstylist. You're a salon owner that also does hair. So in the beginning of this rant, we talked about your freedom number and how much you want to get paid. If you don't know that number, then we can't really connect the dots for you. So you're here now. You're open a salon. You're making no money right now. You're not paying yourself anything. Now you have this magical number that you want to make. Let's call it $500,000 a year. If you want that to be true without you cutting hair, let's get a handy dandy calculator out here. What needs to happen in your salon? How big does it need to be? Let's call it a 10 chair salon. So you have 10 chairs. let's say you grow your team to 10 people to match each chair. You're a dialed in salon owner. You got great marketing. You're great at training your team. They're efficient behind the chair. They're great at cutting, great at coloring. The average weekly revenue generated by your team is $3,000. So at $3,000, that brings you $30,000 a week. We're not including retail here, guys. Just bear with me. So we're at 30K. Let's say you have some kind of 50-50 structure. And I'm not even going to talk about my structure where I have independent stylists. It's a rev share model. There's no payroll liability and shit like that. Let's call it 50-50 to make the numbers even. Times 50%. You're looking at $15,000 a week. Now, out of that 15, we're going to have to eat into that a little bit because if they are W-2 employees, and we're going to say out of that 15, call it 15%. That's $2,250. So that's going to be plus your 15,000. So 17,250 is your weekly payroll responsibility, let's say, with your W-2 payroll, taxes and unemployment insurance and disability and all that other bullshit that goes along with that. Let's take that away from your 30K. You're left with $12,750 for the week. That's not bad. But if you don't have parts and labor and you are covering the color for them, that's going to eat into this number. You have rent, you have front desk, you have assistants, you have other responsibilities. So let's just mark that, let's say $1,000 a week for a front desk person. Okay. Let's say assistants are costing you have with 10 people, you got 3 assistants at $100 a day, let's say 5 days a week, $1,500 a week. So James, remember 11,750.
11,750.
Yep. So you got 3 assistants times, call it 120 a day equals that times 5 days a week. So that's 1,800. I'm going to call it 2,000. So what was that number again?
11,750
minus 2,000. 2,000 for assistance and support. Now we're going to take this number and we are going to times it by 4.3. That's how many weeks are in a month. So now we're generating 40 grand roughly out of your salon for the month. So I'm going to call it just a flat 40. That's pretty solid. So now we're going to times that by, let's see here. So we have 40 grand a month. We got to take your rent out of there. So let's say your rent is 4,500. 4,500. Now we're sitting at 35.5. You got cam charges. Then you have like the water bill, the Wi-Fi, the internet, the booking software. I'm going to just make it a blanket. I'm going to make this conversation really loose, guys. Don't hold me these numbers. We're going to say another 5K out of that number a month, just from like toilet paper and all the other bullshit you got to pay. So we're at 30K. So at 30,000 a month times how many months in a year? You're at 366. You're about 140 grand off your $500,000. But 366 is pretty decent. Now, obviously, you got taxes and other shit that's going to come out of that money, but you're sitting at around 350-ish as a salon owner, not working behind the chair, just running your salon of 10 people. 100% doable. It's going to take some work. Now you might need a manager because you're doing all the things. That's going to eat into your profits as well. So if you don't really make 500 grand a year out of your salon, that number might need to be 15 people, but then you're going to have managers in there. So it's 100% possible. You just have to do the math. You got to figure out what does each stylist need to earn? How are you going to help them earn that money? Because once they earn that money, if they earn it on their own without your support and your culture is hurt, you don't get a good culture, you don't have a good leadership team, and you're not a good leader, they're going to wind up leaving your salon, and then you're back to square one again. So owning a salon, it's an amazing business, but there's a lot of moving parts that a lot of owners who just get into this don't even know. So you right now, if you're not taking a paycheck, the first thing you could do is figure out how many hours are you working on the business? What do you want to get paid per hour? Make it a flat $20. Make it something easy for you to just start with. I think you really should be at 50, but call it $20 an hour just to manage that stuff. And make sure there's enough money left over after paying everything that you can cover yourself and make sure you're getting paid. So with profit first, because we talk about profit first, This is where the salary and this is where that comes into play here. If you're working 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 hours a week on your salon, 5 hours in each one of those little areas that you're doing at, call it $25 an hour. That's going to be, I believe, $500 a week times 25. That's $625 a week. So if you can't pull out $600 a week for yourself, I would probably say $1,000 a week. There's a major problem. You have to really take a look at what's going on with your business. So first thing you want to do is get a couple different bank accounts. You want to separate some money out, but when your revenue comes in, take out all your commissions, take out all your product costs. Now you're left with something called your real revenue. Out of that, you want to pull the profit for the business out of it, because your business also still has to profit outside of paying you. I know this sounds like bananas for a lot of people right now, and I don't know if I'm running in circles, throwing too many numbers at you, but this is the way real businesses operate. And this is something I had to learn the hard way. I kept my personal life and my business life intermingled to a point where I didn't know what was what. And it caused so many issues between me starting the e-commerce store, then me starting the coaching business, then me starting this. And I had all this money. Then I have partners involved, and I never separated it like this. And once we separated it like this, things got really crystal clear on where the money was going. And we were actually way more profitable than we really thought we were. So pull your profit out first. If you don't know, they call it 5%. So out of your real revenue, pull out the 5%. Then comes your salary as an owner. Pull out whatever you think you should get paid. And if you do the math, $20 an hour, $25 an hour, you're doing 25 hours a week on managerial type things. Call it $625, make it $700 for yourself. You pull that out every week. Then you have your tax account. Then you have your operating expenses. If you are falling short on your operating expenses and you can't afford to cover your bills with anything left, with nothing left over, there's a major problem in your salon. Like, you're not doing enough people. You are overspending on your rent. You are paying too much commission for people. You're paying your salary maybe too high to any managers or front desk. There's something fundamentally wrong with how you're paying people and where your money's going. This is why I like making things super simple, even despite what we just talked about paying you right now, because there's, like I said, a lot of moving parts. Parts and labor, I think, is one of the essential components to being able to pull profits out of your salon. Let me explain. Parts are the color and the chemicals being used on your clients. Labor is the services being rendered. Your team gets paid on the services, not on the products. Not retail products. I'm talking color, bleach, keratins, foils, gloves, all that stuff that needs to be in the salon, needs to be purchased for your team to effectively deliver a service. The traditional way of doing things in a salon was you would call it highlights for $300. You would give commission on the $300, and you built in the products on the service that you were charging. The problem was now we're doing a root melt, a tip out, a low light, a highlight, an Olaplex, a gloss. There's like 15 different services happening on that one client. And how are you, like, realistically making sure you're charging the proper amount for those products? The best way to do it is weigh what you're using, charge on a per use basis for each client. Nancy's got a ponytail this thick, hair down to her waist. She should not pay the same amount for a full highlight that Barbara does, because Barbara's got 3 hairs on her head. She gets a single process with 3 highlights. It's ridiculous. But if you try and figure out the math on like a blanket per highlight, per service type of charge, you're never going to be accurate with what you're allocating for product charges. And this is why owners go into debt. This is why they can't pull any profits out for themselves, because they're not charging properly. There's a lot of people out there right now, and they weigh on their decision on parts and labor. And for mentors and coaches and people who help salons out, if you don't entertain this particular pricing model, I think you're doing your coaching clients a major disservice, because it's the most fair and transparent way to really do your pricing. So now in that real revenue, you know exactly what your color order should be, because you weighed everything out that week. You charge it to the clients. It's in a bucket that's in your bank. And if you collected $2,000 worth of product charges last week, Well, guess what? Your color order should be somewhere around $12.50 because you're going to have some margin in there. You want to cover the gloves, the foils, and all that stuff. The other way of doing it is having a service charge and tacking that onto your stylist. That just sucks for them. So I think making it really easy, parts and labor, now you're set. You're only giving commission on the actual services being done. Now, a lot of people are like, well, we're cheating our team out because, they're doing more work. If they're doing more work, then they should also increase what they're charging for the labor. So it's not inexpensive to get your hair done anymore. As everybody knows right now, who is owning a salon, your color order is significantly different than it was 10 years ago for the same amount of color. What was $4 or $5 a tube, $3.50 a tube 10 years ago is $11, $12, $14 a tube now. Now they have like special organic, ammonia-free, PBD-free, all this other fancy color, which is $14 to $15 to $16 a tube. You're not raising your prices enough to cover that. This is why you're an owner right now, not pulling out any profits for yourself, not paying yourself anything, because there's nothing left to pay you. So the best way to do it is eliminate any of these like variable costs and expenses and find a way to recoup that money on a per use basis to your clients. That's why I'm so heavy on parts and labor. And so if you're listening right now and you don't have that in your salon, do me a favor, reach out to me. I got a couple free PDFs and ebooks that break it down for you. So it's really user friendly. I'll send it over to you. And I think you should do that first. This way you're actually, what your real revenue is. If you don't know what your real revenue is, you can't pull out a salary for yourself. I think you have to really go back to the basics. And guys, we're artists. We don't really pay attention to numbers, but the more you don't pay attention to it, think it's going to eventually get better. It's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse. For me, what I would do, my background is I didn't have enough profit. So what did I do? I wasn't calculating my numbers. I knew that my revenue coming in was this much money. So what I would do is I would just make more money. I would just work harder. I would get busier. But you can't outwork a bad situation. You literally because you're not good with the money. You don't know where it's going. So once I finally was able to switch to parts and labor, and once I finally was able to switch to a profit first system, you didn't need to work any harder. I just needed to make sure I focused in the areas that were causing me to leak money. And once I patched those up, then things got better. So in the Marine Corps, there's a ditty, and it's called, it's stop the bleeding, start the breathing, protect the wound, and treat for shock. All right. If you don't stop the bleeding on somebody who's injured, it doesn't matter what happens to the other ones because they're going to bleed out and die. You have to stop the bleeding. And the best way for you to figure out how to do that is figure out what you should pay yourself to be an owner. Figure out what you want your salon to profit every single year. Create a business that's worth selling. It's going to be an amazing business to work in. So when you go on vacation and you are the breadwinner in your salon, do you still make money? No. Do you have paid time off? That's when I first married my wife, or we first started dating. I wasn't really big, obviously, in the corporate world. I'm a hairdresser, and she had like PTO. Is that like a form of PTSD? Like, what the fuck is PTO? Paid time off. I said, what do you mean? What, paid time off? The fuck is paid time off? You get paid to be off? Like, I know that sounds bananas because it's pretty common conversations in the old corporate world, but in the old school hairdresser world, there's no paid time off. And that as an owner of a salon, I was like, I don't do clients. I'm not getting paid. And then I started really investing in my own personal development and my own business development. I started hiring coaches, hiring mentors, not just reading books, implementing what I learned in books. And from the E-Myth to like the Entrepreneur Operating System to all these different business books. And they were like, you need to get paid to own a business. I was like, well, I make a ton of money, but I'm not getting paid if I don't work. And then I'm not an owner then. I'm just an operator. I'm just an employee. That's it. That's all I am. So as an owner, you have to make it your duty and the way you run your business to make sure you're getting paid. And if you hate running the salon, but you also hate your old salon owner, so that's why you opened the salon, or your salon owner left the salon, so it was going to be sold to somebody or go out of business and you took it over, and now you're like, shit, I didn't sign up for this. Guess what? You're in it. You did sign up for it. But here's the beauty of it. Once you organize this number and you figure out what you should be getting paid for what you're doing, You can then remove yourself from that role, just work behind the chair still, make whatever money you make behind the chair, and pay a manager to do this for you. Delegate it. It's called the Passion Focused Salon Owner. I got a cool worksheet on that. If you guys want to, just shoot me a DM. Like, give me the Passion Focused. Give me the PSO. That's the shortcut in my Instagram chat, and we'll send it over to you. It helps you break down some of the systems you need to put in place so you can actually A, pay yourself, or B, if you just want to be an employee, you could pay a manager to run your salon the way you want it, that aligns with your vision, your core values, your mission. And so it's your ideal workplace, and you're not doing anything except for you do have to inspect what you expect. You do have to meet with that manager you put in place at least a couple times a week to make sure that everything's running smooth. And if you do that, you don't ever have to really be an owner ever again. You could just be an employee, but your salon's running the right way. Most owners, and this is the mindset I think most owners are not taking into consideration. Most successful business owners function like investors. They don't function like operators. See, when you invest in a company, you don't do anything. Like, if I invest in Apple stock, I'm not doing anything with Apple. I'm invested in it, right? So for you as an owner, think of your salon as like you're investing in stock, as an investment for you. And if you're like an angel investor, if you're like someone who invests in companies to give them startup capital, you're going to probably put your 2 cents in, and you're probably going to help guide them a little bit. You swoop in, you fix whatever changes need to get changed, and you swoop back out again. Once you're in the day-to-day as an owner, you're too close to the daily operations to really be able to make the executive decision on what needs to happen, because you only have so much bandwidth, only so much capacity in how you could process information, how many decisions you can make in a day. When you're in the day-to-day putting out fires, by the time you get a chance to step away from the business a little bit to take a look at the big picture, you're burnt out and you're shot out, which is why you need to have a focused time to work on your business first thing in the morning. I don't care if you say you're not a morning person. That's bullshit. Become a morning person. There's no better time than before anyone's up to work on the things that need to get done in your business, because there's no fires to put out yet. If you say you're going to do it after you get done with work, I promise you, you're not. Your client Jen's going to come in late. Your client Barbara's going to not process the right way. Someone's grays aren't going to cover. You got to reapply their color. Your client has an issue. Your stylist has an issue with her client. You got to step in and intervene with. And then your 3 o'clock meeting or your 3 o'clock appointment that you wanted to set in your calendar, you blocked off to work on the numbers, to work on this thing, to work on the marketing, doesn't happen because now it's 5:30 and you're like, oh my God, I'm shot. I got to go here to my kid's dance recital. And guess what? Never happened at 3 o'clock. Can't do it. Salon business is way too sporadic. And any person who owns a salon, or you do hair and you tell your significant other, I'll meet you at 5 o'clock at XYZ's birthday party, and you show up at 6 o'clock every single time, it's because there's too many variables. You all know what I'm talking about. Like, everyone should be shaking their head. Yes. The funniest thing is a hairdresser, when they say, oh, honey, I'll be home at 5 o'clock, or I'll be 5 more minutes, you're never 5 more minutes. And so you, as an owner who still does hair, it's the same situation, except the thing that you're neglecting is your business, aka your baby. So if you are a good parent, which is, this is your baby, are you going to neglect your 2 a.m. feeding time? Are you going to neglect changing that diaper? Are you going to neglect the important things you have to do for that baby to nurture it and care for it so it grows up healthy and happy? No, you're not. But you don't look at your business like that. So I know we don't get paid to be a parent. Your payoff for being a good parent is your kid's not a jerk off, and you don't have to bail them out of jail when they're 14, 15, 16, and 17. You're not dealing with issues when they're older. That's your payoff as a parent. Your payoff as a business owner for this baby is you actually extract money out of the business to live your dream life. So if you are listening right now still and you're listening to this rant, please do yourself a favor. Figure out what is that number you want to make from your salon. And then after that, analyze the business model that you're in. Because if you're sitting here trying to figure out how you're going to make 500 grand a year or 200 grand a year, and you have a chair rental model and you got 8 chairs in your salon or 6, it's probably not going to happen. You have to redo that business model. If you need help figuring out what is the best business model for you, me and you can get in a conversation. You can join one of these lives. You can hit me up, go to apply.nickmarabella.com, and then fill out the little application. And then we'll get in a conversation to see if you're a good fit for the Level Up Academy. And then we could transform your whole entire business to actually give you freedom, not just financially, but in your life too. So you're making the soccer games on the weekends, you're making the dance classes, you're making it home for dinner, you're being the best mother or father you can be, which is the most important role, but yet you're also being the best salon owner you can be, and you're getting paid for the hard work that you're doing. That sounds like a dream. Do me a favor, head over to nickmaribel.com or apply.nickmaribel.com and then take a look at how I can help you. But James, we're going to go into some Q&A real quick.
Yeah.
I know it's Christmas time, guys, so there's going to be a very small group in the chat here. I'm hoping that there's really no one in it and you guys were packed with clients today, but let's rock and roll, James.
We got, does this profit first structure work for booth rental stylists?
Actually, that's a fucking great question. If you're a booth rental stylist, yes,
that was
it does.
Sam Arlene.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because you have your business behind the chair. Who's doing the marketing? Who's doing the film editing for you? Who's like booking your appointments for you? Yeah, and if you're an LLC and you're making good money, you might want to be an S corp. You might want to have like a trust, an LLC holding company, then your operating company. You could structure that as a booth rental salon too. But yeah, you should pay yourself for the admin work that you're doing. Here's the reason why. If you get in the habit of paying yourself for the admin work that you're doing, you're going to have funds allocated to that particular role, which means that if you want to step away from that and hire someone to do your social media, hire someone to do your booking for you, hire a virtual assistant or an executive assistant, you have the money allocated for that role. You just stop paying yourself and pay that person. But profit first works in any business. Just have to tweak it a little bit. Next question, James.
We got, we need to find out why stylists are so afraid of raising prices. We have to get over that hump, but how? That's pretty curly and dry.
That was actually my last post, I think, on Instagram. There's only 2 reasons why people don't raise their prices. They don't think they're worth it, or they're afraid their stylist won't think they're worth it. So once you figure out which one that is, then we could solve that problem. Because if you don't think you're worth it, then become a stylist who's worth charging those prices, and then it's easy to charge. Like, I'm not going to charge $20 a haircut anymore. I'm worth more than $20 a haircut. And Ted Gibson's not going to charge $500 a haircut because he charges $2,600 a haircut right now. Big difference between $100 a haircut, $500 a haircut, and $2,600 a haircut. He's getting that because he thinks he's worth it. And he has clients who think he's worth it too. So it's just a mindset shift. Pricing the only thing pricing has to do with his mindset.
How can I take profit first when I'm so behind on bills?
If you never, ever take your profit first, you're never, ever going to be able to do it. You're always going to be behind them. There'll always be bills to pay. Take 1%. Just form the habit. First, get in front of why are your bills so big? How do you generate more income into your salon? Like I would love to talk to you one-on-one, but like, if you're so behind on bills, why? I'm going to kind of be like devil's advocate here. Work harder. If you're already working hard enough, like, most people think they're working hard, but you're not. You might have to work 7 days a week for the next 6 months. Punt every family event, punt everything for the next 6 months. I mean, you got a kid's first birthday. I get it. But like, these friends activities where you're going to dinner, you're doing dumb shit, birthday parties on a Saturday, a christening, all that needs to go. 6 months, head down, work your ass off, market the shit out of yourself, become the busiest salon, busiest person in the world. Get some of that debt figured out. At the same time, you're still doing the profit first system. Pull that 1% profit. Figure out why you have nothing left for operating expenses. Maybe you got to talk to your landlord, negotiate the rent again. Maybe you got to talk to your distributors, negotiate the price of color. Negotiate with people. Bring the cost going out the door down. Renegotiate your leadership team. Maybe you're paying them too much. You got to figure out why you have so much money going out the door. If you're a business owner, it's time for you to pay attention to what's happening to that. And then once you figure out like where you can cut here and cut there, start with 1% profit. By the end, like, I want my salons that I coach to be at 25, 30%. That's ideally where I would like them to be. Profit-wise. That's the dream. And that's including retail too, guys. Like, that's where they should be. At a bare minimum, like 20% should be where they're profiting for a hair salon. The industry average is like 8%. 4 to 8% is what most salons are averaging. If you're $1 million salon and you're averaging 8%, that's 80 grand a year. That's brutal. All that fucking work, because it's a lot of work to get to $1 million salon. I mean, it's not hard. It's just work. To pull out 80 grand, is it really worth it? Like, you can make more being an influencer on TikTok or with a YouTube channel. Like, time to reprioritize what's happening in your business. All right, James, one more question. I'll do a couple more, but one or two more.
We have Brittany Kowalczyk. What about when you have a slow month? Do you still pay yourself the same amount?
Well, if you have a slow month, when I said in the beginning of the conversation, have your org chart, your CEO, your COO, your CFO, your CMO, you in the role of the chief marketing officer, you should fire yourself. You shouldn't have a slow month. You have a slow month now because of what you didn't do 2 or 3 months ago. That means you got to take a look at your your referral rate. You got to take a look at what kind of system you have for client retention. How do you get them back in the door again? What's your pre-booking system like, or your rebooking system like? So if you have a slow month, awesome. Dive in and figure out why you're slow and make sure that never happens again. And you should still take your salary, because if you're slow behind the chair, that means you have less to do in the salon. That means you have more time to focus on the thing that you didn't do a couple months ago, or you're not doing properly now, so that never happens again. And this goes to, real quick, James, if you're a stylist and salon owners too, like, I want you guys to pay attention here. When you map out your calendar, what I tell people to do, take everything that's important to them. Your mom, your dad, you're this, you're that, put that in your calendar first. Now you got your work, right? 9 to 5, 9 to 8, 10 to 6, 10 to 8, whatever times you work, 12 to 9. That's your blocked off time in your calendar to be behind the chair or work in the salon. If you don't have clients from the hours of 10 to 7 that you're scheduled in the salon, guess what you should be doing? Calling people, texting people, creating content, filming content, editing content, reaching out to people, calling your old client. Like, from this time to that time, you should be locked in nonstop. And you should do that until you get busy again. That's your work time. You don't just cut and color hair anymore. You have to market yourself too. You own a business now. You think if Apple didn't market, they would sell that many iPhones? Never. It's part of business, guys. Like, I hate these friggin' memes that show up like, oh, I'm a hairdresser and a marketer and a filmographer. And no shit. You own a business. You got to do it all. That's the point of owning a business. The better you're at all the business stuff, the easier life gets. Like, it's just what we do. How do you not know how to set up a Google business page? Well, guess what? Go to YouTube. Find someone like me. Get a coach. Get a mentor. Figure it out. YouTube is a wealth of knowledge. But you don't know what you don't know. This is why you hire a coach or a mentor to give you the language of marketing, to teach you what you don't know, so you have the skills now to go do the things that you need to do to grow your business. I get into so many conversations and DMs. Probably some people even watching this right now, and you're like, I'm too busy right now. I'm gonna do it next month, or I'll focus on it later. Well, guess what? When you have time to focus on it later, it's too late. You just lost to 3 stylists. You're not showing up on Google anymore. There's no better time than now, because you have an issue now. Start fixing it now while you're busy. That way, when you hopefully get busier because you're building the business, you know how to deal with managing your energy and your time. So there's no reason why you should be slow. If you are slow, use that time to figure out why you're slow and never let that happen again. That was my rant. Sorry, guys. All right, James.
We have Danielle Foster Wright. Should I pay myself a salary or just take an owner's draw? And what's the difference tax-wise?
Beautiful question, by the way. Depends how you're structured. If you're set up as an S Corp, you're better off paying yourself like a small salary. If you want like the high level thing to do, you could start a consulting company, pay yourself out of the salon to your consulting company in a state like Wyoming or Delaware or Nevada, and then make sure you have one other client in that consulting company to make it legitimate. and then you pay yourself your salary out of that. And then that's a single owner LLC, and a single owner LLC has a flow through income. You're able to kind of offset some taxes and write some things off out of that company. You can't write off out of your salon. That's what I would do. But honestly, it's about building the habit of transferring the money to something else, which is like yourself or the other entity. If you're set up as an S corp, you have to pay yourself anyway, like a reasonable wage or reasonable salary. So it's just, you have to do it regardless. Now, when it comes to whether you pay yourself a W-2 or not, I'm not a big fan of W-2. I think that the government shouldn't really take what's not theirs first out of your paycheck. I think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So if you set up a consulting company that has more than you as a client, and it's owned by a trust in Wyoming, no one knows it owns it, there's a way for you to legitimately and legally pay that consulting company. The reason why I'm saying this is now when you have to hire a manager, you have those funds already being allocated. So it's not a hit on your income or on your revenue, I should say. So yeah, you should, there's a sneaky little tax strategy that you can do if that's the game you guys want to play. That was like a taste of it. There's a guy named Ed Collins. He is a tax strategist. He's got a really good social media following. He's a good guy to follow. He's super by the book and very, very like legal, but he has some really legitimate advice. And out of all the guys in space, I feel like I would trust him the most. There's a lot of good dudes out there, women included when I say dudes, but I just like his style. And I think he's a lawyer and an accountant, and he's got a pretty good program. I was in his program a while back, but he's good. James, next question. I teach like some of his principles inside the Level Up Academy too.
Pretty cut and dry wants to know if you did a live on negotiation.
Yeah, I could do negotiations. Absolutely. If you want to really get them depth, it's in my profit and protection category in the Level Up Academy. So if you really want to learn how to negotiate, I would jump in there. If you want to become like a true entrepreneur, definitely join the Level Up Academy. If you want to really get good negotiating, guy's name is Chris Voss. Follow him. He wrote the book called Never Split the Difference. He's an FBI negotiator, negotiated hostages and like for the FBI. He's brilliant. The way he uses language and tone and questions to be able to sway a conversation. So I would definitely check out Chris Voss, but I'll do a fun negotiating live. That would probably be for the profit and protection in a couple of weeks. It might be on my list of lives I'm going to do. I learned how to negotiate from a guy named Al. Al's the godfather of shampoo. And when I first started selling products online, Al was already doing it for years. And I would hear how he would speak to different distributors and different people who owned brands and distribution companies. And like, I was blown away. He would, 20% was the bare minimum he would get. The way he would use words and talk and like a real Nicky Norca, right? If you guys are from the Northeast, New Jersey, like he had like just aura about him. And back in the days, guys, he was like hustling cases and pallets of like Shaper Plus and shampoo. And he was an old school products guy from back in the day, from like the CVS, the Walgreens, the ShopRite, the Food Towns, like Diverter. And I love Al because all these brands are diverting products anyway. There's a small margin, right? When you're selling products in bulk and volume. So we had to get the products at a discount, sell it at a discount to somebody else so they can sell it and make money on it. And just hearing him negotiate, it opened up to my mind to be like, just ask. Like the one thing I really learned from that was if you don't ask, you'll never get the deal. At least at the very least, just ask. You'll be surprised how many people will go, yeah, sure, I can do 20% off. And you're like, holy shit, I should ask for 30. So I will do a lesson on that. But I wanted to give a shout out to Al. He was a mentor of mine when I first got into the e-commerce world. And I don't think he knows how much he actually taught me, but he taught me a lot. James.
Al's got a sweet Jaguar.
There's a sweet Jaguar.
We got, how do you pay yourself and save for taxes at the same time? I always get wrecked in April.
You have probably a really shitty accountant. And I wouldn't even use an accountant, to be honest with you. I would use myself. All right, save for taxes. Profit First is the book. You get your real revenue out of the way. Percentage goes to profits, percentage goes to owner. Then you got your tax account. It goes to a bank account somewhere that is black holed in like 5 states over. You can't access it. They have no online banking. It's like you got to drive there and make deposits. Like you literally can't take the money out. Like I'm exaggerating, like 5 states over, but separate it from your main bank account so you can't access that money. Then every April comes up, or whenever you do your quarterly taxes, the money's sitting in there. You have to just be disciplined. Like, how do you not become a fat ass when you're an adult and you have DoorDash and a car and you have a job and you have money? Discipline. Stop eating shitty food. How do you save for taxes? Just discipline. Set the bank account up. Don't touch it. Put it in there. Or learn about what a revocation of election is. But we're not going to get into that. James. One more question. We're going to wrap it up.
I was just reading. Pretty Cut and Curly had a statement of the question.
I'll read it out.
What if your spouse covers all the bills and you just reinvest everything?
This, again, is a amazing question. If you were an investor in your business and you reinvest everything, never pulling anything out, would you like to keep making that investment? You have to be able to get something for your investment, even if you pay yourself a salary or have the money there for yourself to reinvest it again. I think what you're doing is you're using your spouse paying for everything and you not being good with the money, saying you're reinvesting it as an excuse of why there's nothing left over for you. And I that might be a really hard pill to swallow. I'm only telling you this because that's exactly what I did. Like, I reinvested all my money that I made behind the chair back into the business again because I was growing it. I stopped investing in stocks to grow it. But you want to make sure that if there's profit in there, have it set aside in a bank account. Have it your salary set aside somewhere. And then if the money is there and you want to throw it back into the business again, do it. But form the habit of pulling those funds out. I promise you, it will change how you look at operating a business. Because when you go to sell the business and everything's being reinvested into it again, or you have to maybe get money like to buy a building or something like that, there's no profit. Who's going to invest in that? What bank is going to loan you money to buy a building for that business when there's nothing in there? So you have to play the game smart. You got to play it right. And if you're reinvesting everything, at least still put the money in the buckets so you know what's in there and you know what's possible and you have the discipline of running the business like a real business. And then that way you could always reinvest it back in there again, but you know how much is actually being generated by that business. That was a really good question. And the only reason, guys, I'm not Dave Ramsey by any means. I'm the last person you want to ask when it comes to budgeting and saving. Like the person who just asked the last question, I love to reinvest in my business. Like after my expenses are paid for, I throw everything back in the company again for the most part. But there's something I like to diversify my income with. I'll give you my quadrants. So you have real estate, right? You own a piece of property. Then you have businesses, my hair salons, e-commerce stores, whatever. Then you have the stock market, other people's businesses. Then you have insurance, life insurance, whole life insurance. The reason why these are great vehicles, all of them, is with insurance policy and a whole life insurance policy. If you are like me and the person who we just answered their question to, and like to reinvest all your money back in your business again, if you have a family, something happens to you before you can pull that money out and see your true vision come to light, there may be nothing left of it because you're the visionary, right? That insurance policy pays dividends because my insurance policies are substantial to cover me and my family. God forbid something happens to me. And I could also borrow against my whole life insurance policy because there's a cash value in there. And then what I do when I leave my trust as a beneficiary to these policies that my kids now are, beneficiaries of that trust. And so it creates this thing called the Rockefeller waterfall. But now you could borrow equity against your real estate to open up the other business, or if your business is hurting, you can borrow from your life insurance policy. You have some options here. You could sell stocks, you could pull out equity, you could pull out cash from your whole life policy. So you want to have diversification. You want to make sure that you're reinvesting in different vehicles. When you keep reinvesting into your business again, this is the mistake I made. It's the most talked about thing when it comes to investing. It's called diversification. You need to be diversified in the stocks that you're investing in, as well as the areas that you're investing in. If you're solely just investing in your own business, you're at the mercy of your success. So you want to make sure you're diversifying your investments. And I like those 4 different quadrants. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be the holidays. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, you should. It's a great holiday to celebrate, but I wish you the best of whatever you celebrate, but it's fun. So those of you guys who are on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe, Facebook, follow, Instagram, follow. And if you have any questions, please go to my, what's today? Wednesday. Oh,
Tuesday.
I do a Q&A on Monday, a Q&A on Friday. So I still might have my Monday Q&A up if you're catching this a little late, but you can always reach out to me in the DMs on Instagram. I'm at Nick Marabella. And if you want more information, go to nickmarabella.com. All the info's there. You guys are amazing. Thank you for watching. Have a great and happy Christmas. See you all next week. Or actually, what, on Friday, James?
Oh, yeah, Friday.
Friday. See you all on Friday.